Hey everybody, welcome back to It's a Metal Thing. Today, twin turbo manifolds for my 61 Ford Falcon Gasser. All right, Merry Christmas to me. I told my family I wanted these eBay GT45 turbos. Got those for Christmas. I had ordered some T4 flanges because I knew I was going to run these. I have a bunch of these 1.5" Schedule 10 Weld 90s. I have some 1.5" Schedule 10 pipe. I'm going to actually build a manifold instead of a header. I think it'll be better, sturdy, less prone to cracking, and I just think it's the best way to go. So I'm going to get the flange on the engine. I got an exhaust flange for the engine. Get the exhaust flange on in there and see where I'm at, what I'm going to do, where I'm going to start, how I'm going to do this. So that's next. All right, so exhaust flange is on. The plan is to run the turbo right in here. I'm going to have it so maybe you could, like if you're driving along the side, you could actually see the turbo through the fender well. I think it's a good place to do it. It'll stay cool here. There's nothing, it's not tight. Airflow should be through here pretty good. I'll just come down here and run the exhaust down at this angle here. But I want to put it centered in here. So I need to, this is the forward hole here. So I got to kind of shift everything this way to get it all centered up. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hold some tubes up here, figure out what I'm going to do. This is a pretty good angle here. It's probably even 45, I'm not even sure, but I might just cut some 45s and just come straight out. Figure out what I need to come out here and get them all four and basically in a bundle to where I can come off here, have a curve up and have the mount here for the turbo. So I'm going to get some tubing in here, fiddle around a little bit and come up with a plan. That's next. Something like that. So it's low enough. I kind of want to see it from the fender well a little bit, just to freak people out a little bit. And then it has airflow. There's plenty of room for air cleaner out here. There's plenty of room for the exhaust to come and elbow down. It'll be like a 3-inch. It'll be pretty tight, like right off the bat, I'll have to transition it down. So what I ended up doing was I think I'm going to run center on the exhaust here. So it'll center up, the T4 flange will center up right on the middle of the exhaust. So basically it'll be 4 exhaust tubes coming together in a tidy little bundle down here. So I can transition from the 4 into 1. I've been thinking about this, how I want to do it. You can buy those online. Typically they're sheet metal, they're stamped or welded together, whatever. I'm going to make my own. I'm going to make it out of the Schedule 10 90s that I have. I'm going to slice them and dice them and get them all together. So I think the first thing I need to do is make that transition. I need to make that 4 into 1. And then what I'm going to do though is I'm going to then make a sheet metal elbow to get this 45 in here. I want to run 1/8" stainless, so it's sturdy enough to hold the weight of the turbo. Anything else, I think anything thinner will be sketchy and probably crack out. So I need to build the T4 square into a 4-way, 4 into 1, Schedule 10, 90 contraption so that I know the spacing of the tubes when I go to build the headers. So the first things first, build that transition. That's next. Okay, so the plan is to take 4 of these and cut them in such a way that it makes a collector, but I want to be able to eventually do a rectangle shaped cut. So I'm cutting them at a weird angle to try to bring them in more and end up with a situation where I can weld a rectangle that's this size. That's the plan. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to mess around with it. As I get farther with these clamps, it's going to move this in closer. So this actually overall will be a lot smaller by the time it all comes together. So I'm going to start just by cutting these angles first, and then I'll cut these angles and just keep working it till it gets to hopefully where I think it'll be. Not going to work. It would go one way, but not the other way. So the ends over here, this end, right? It's just not wide enough. You could probably pull it off, this way, but not this way. It's too, I'd have to smash it in. And then these are already small enough. This already gets pretty pinched down, I'm surprised. So I'm just gonna take some straight pipe that I have and make some transitions. Oh, that's next. All right, first merge collector failed. So I'm just gonna go with the standard style you see. Never built a merge collector before. Never built a turbo system before. Learning as I go. Got on YouTube to look at some videos on how to do it. There was 6 or 7 videos. They're all slightly different. There was one in there where, a couple in there where they had this jig that you could jig the angle at. I guess you cut it with a bandsaw, like a vertical bandsaw. I didn't know about that one, so I'm going to go with the one that lays down. So what I have here is I have a piece of 6.5 inch. This is schedule 10, 1.5 inch stainless tube. This size is completely arbitrary. It's based on, I needed a certain length, obviously. This one will work, but the reason I go with this length is because the jig that I made, laying it out, figuring it out, this was the optimum size for what I did. Yours is going to be different, so whatever you do is whatever you're going to do. All right, got to split this into 4 quadrants, 4 quarters. This is 1 7/8 OD. This is 1 7/8 square piece of paper. Just drew a line on there. Just set this on here, line up the edges, make your marks, super easy. So now I'm going to go down and show you my jig, my apparatus, stolen from other videos, and we'll get a cutting on this. All right, so here's this is a piece of tubing that I cut. I was going to use angle iron, but the thicker material would cause the tube to move up and out, which would mean that I'd have to come back farther to line up with the blade. So I had some 3-inch, I don't know what this is, 095 tube that I just cut. Also, too, I bolted it on here. He'd already had holes. My buddy already had holes in here, so I just ran a number 8 and just bolted it through. That holds this in place. So I came down and I was lining this tube up on here, and get it on there. So I lined this tube up on here, and this is where this ended up, right? It was long enough for me to clamp back here. That's why the 6.5, right? So I make this little thing in the front to hold the tube down. Just put it down here, clamp this on, put this on here, line it up where you need to go, scribe the line, welded that on there. It's long enough for this to clamp back here. I just got to line this up here, and I can line this up down here on this edge because I cut it with the saw. So if this is lined up here and this is lined up here, we're good to go, and then we just start cutting through there. Okay, so I just lined the line up with the saw. It's lined up with the bottom here where this cut was made. Just clamp that on with a pair of vice grips. The front's held down with this thing, and just let it go. Lube it and watch it take forever because it's stainless. Here's one that I cut already. This is the first one. I think it turned out good. Pretty happy with it. So I'm thinking 3 more. Hold them up, put them together, and see if they look good enough. I think they should be good. We'll see. Okay, now you just lift the saw up, unclamp it, turn it 90 degrees. You can either line it up with the line that I have on here, line it up with that edge, or you can get a level on there. So do that. So like that, you can either, like I say, level off of there, or you can go off the line. I think it'll be close enough to just go off the line. So when you start this cut, though, it's going to want to run off. So maybe hold the saw a little bit and let it get a little bite on there. Last time it came around, it hit the weld and it jumped. So I'm just going to keep it from running off and then let it cut. All right, something like that. The first 2 or 3 took forever. I didn't realize the blade was so dull. So I swapped the blade out. The last 5 went pretty quick. So going to degrease them, deburr them, tack one together, kind of see where I'm at. Hole size, hole spacing on the back, all of that. Like I said, I've never done this before, just learning as I go. So that's the next step. Okay, first merge collector. I'm happy, first one. So I'm thinking I'm going to come off of here, off of these 2 ports here, and come and try and hit this angle, right? So it's going to have to end up somewhere around here. I'm going to try to keep this square with the world. So it's going to have to come uphill a little bit. That's going to put me a little tight on the top, though. So I don't know. I'm going to have to play around with it. But I think I'm going to come off the bottom, even if I do got to come down at an angle, which will be weird for the curve to go up. I don't know. I'm going to play around with the 2 bottom tubes here, these 2 center tubes, try to see what I can come up with an angle and make that work. All right, I had cut up some 90s to try and experiment with a merge collector, just using 90s. It didn't work. So I had some left over after all said and done. I just hacked the heck out of them. So anyway, I turned these into 45s. I have this Harbor Freight Special. It has this lip on it, which helps. So you can get the 45 in there. Not that it has to be 45 on this particular situation. Probably could have been better, but 45 is what worked with the remainder of the material that I had. And I think it will work here. So I have this piece of 6-inch drop that I had that I messed up on earlier. It wasn't quite long enough for the jig that I needed to make the merge collector. So I have this. I think it's too long. I'm going to probably cut it in half. So I'm going to tack this on here like this and then put it in here so that I can fit it up in here and move this around and try to get it to line up at the distance that I need to go into my merge collector. Now it will be a little bit pointing downhill a little bit, but I also have this drop that I had used earlier. I was going to had a different idea. So I made these little shorties here so I could put those on there and get those to square up and work with what I have going on with these two, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half. I'm going to tack those ends on, hold them up in there, play around with them, see if I can get this distance. If I get this distance, I could probably get the fit right by rotating this around to line up with orientation for this tube. So I'm gonna do that next. All right, got these tacked in. They're pretty symmetrical. I'm happy with the angle. The angle's good on the angle's good on the dangle. The thing is now is I want it square with the world like that. So I can't have that gap there. So I have two of these little pieces here that I'm going to put on here and orient to get this thing to sit pretty much level, the face level here. So you take these, put them around, move them around, mark them, tack them on. I should be able to get this tacked on, and then I can start on the top too. That's next. Something like that. So that'll work. So now I got to come up from this side. I got a large radius 90, which might run me right into that tube. I also have a tight 90, which I could probably get away with running down here. I'll cut the angle off, obviously, so it runs straight in. I need to go get some more of these probably. So what I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna just tack a piece of tube on here and get an idea where it's gonna run into up here and come up with a plan. Okay, like that. I mean, I can get my finger in here. Definitely gonna have to, put the nuts on and put the manifold on with a wrench, but I think it's gonna be all right. I was able to run a full 90 on here. Ended up going like 55.5 degrees, 55 degrees, short little straight section, so that worked. So probably basically the same thing over there. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it'd be pretty close. I think I could pull it off. So yeah, so far so good. So, all right, on to the next tube. Together, I was able to take it out and finish this last tube. So, kind of symmetrical, a little bit of gappage, but nothing I can't fill. I think it'll be plenty strong. It's just tacked together now with the wire feed. So I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna tack the tubes together, just these joints here, really well, burn them in with a TIG, all this here. So, because I'm gonna cut this apart, so I'm gonna cut it into 4 different tubes. I'm going to clean it up and then weld it, and then weld it back together, back to this point here. So I'll be cutting, each individual tube off, and then hopefully it doesn't move around too much. I can get it all back together again. So that's what I'm gonna do next. Ambidextrous, is that how you say it? Left and right. So it goes on. I couldn't get it on over the studs and have the steering shaft in place, and we have to run bolts in the head or just put the steering shaft on afterwards. But there's plenty of clearance now. Once I got it all in, it's no big deal. I'm feeling like I didn't get this centered here because I feel like this is back a little more. I'm gonna probably bench build another set for this side. It'll be close enough. I could probably just offset how I lay it out. But I'm not 100% sure. So I'm gonna reference this off this fender bolt hole off the oiler, and I'm gonna take it off and flip it to the other side and kind of see where I'm at. But either way, I can go ahead and build the next one on the bench. I'll just offset the flange a little bit because I know there's plenty of clearance all the way around, so it's not an issue. If I use these same bends and stuff, or same elbows, I should be able to pull it off. So I'm gonna flip this around, kind of see where I'm at and get an idea of what I gotta do on that exactly. All right, so I got this all flattened out. I made the next merge collector. I got them the same length, same size, everything's flat and square. I put this on this edge here. I measured over, took a square, it was right at 10 inches from the bottom here to here. So I just came over another 10 inches, flipped this around, tacked it, or clamped it down. Now I have basically, I'm going to make the mirror image of this. So just the opposite side. So if it is offset forward to back, it'll be the same on both sides. This is at 42 and something, this is 42 and something, the angle's the same. Whether it's all exact or not, it's not super important. So now I can go ahead and just copy this over to this. So what I'm gonna do now. 2 turbo manifolds, schedule 10, 1.5-inch pipe, stainless steel. So yeah, I'm happy with the way they came together. They're symmetrical. They fit nice, no weird angles. Everything's gonna work out good. So next I'm going to break out my TIG. I'm going to burn in these tacks that I have on here, plus add some tacks just on the tubes only. These 3 joints on each side. I'm going to separate at the merge collector. I'm going to take this off of here. I'm going to smooth the material up, run a buffer over it, a belt or something. I don't know, Scotch-Brite, I don't know. Going to make them all uniform, then TIG them up. Then I'll probably try to weld 2 sides together, inside and out on the merge collector. It's going to be a little tough getting down in here as far as getting up in here, but I'll be able to weld it inside. I don't know, I've never done it before, never built these before. So this is my first go around, so we'll see how it goes. So tack it up, smooth it up, weld it up. That's next. All right, cleaned up and welded up. Some of them are got a little gray. My TIG work needs a little work, but I've never built these before. This is the first time welding stainless pipe tube. So I'm not mad. I think it turned out all right. So now I'm going to figure out how I'm going to get this together. I think I'm going to try to get these 2 tubes. I'm going to try to get them all in here and kind of in place. I'll end up tacking these 2 tubes together. I'm weld them together, and then I'll refit everything, because I want to be able to just weld these 2 first before the rest of it goes on. So that's going to be the plan. Whether it works out or not, I don't know. So I'm going to try that. All right, so I made a little welding fixture, I guess you could call it, just something to keep it from warping. I don't know if this would be completely effective or not, but it's better than doing nothing. I had some aluminum I was going to use, but I looked down and found this piece of 2x4 quarter wall. Just center punched, laid it out, center punched, drilled and tapped 3/8 holes, bolted it down. This is clamped in or tacked into place. I like the gap here. I like the way this is lined up. That's how I kind of intended. So I can make sure that everything belonged where it belonged. I test fit those pieces over there. It looks like it's good. So I'm going to go ahead and weld this out, this whole area here. I'm going to weld this out while I can. I'm going to then put these 2 pieces up, make sure the collector is working good and all these pieces fit together. Then I'll go ahead and weld this out, weld around here. Then I'll come back. I'm going to try to get this all lined up, tack the 2 pieces together just with the collector, weld the collector like I did on this side, then try to put it all together. That way it'll be easier to weld on the sides. It'll be less welding to do inside to keep the leaks. So that's the plan. So weld this up. All right, manifold welded together. Happy with it. My first one ever. The welds are, they're not pretty, but they're not too bad. They're got a little bit of rainbow to them. There's a couple of them that are gray. I didn't want to go too cold, obviously, because it needs to be stout enough to hold the turbo. So I had an issue. I had it all tacked together like I showed you previously. I pulled it all apart. I welded all the tubes individually. I put it back together, got everything all square and happy on the merge collector and all the tubes lined up. Then I took these 2 tubes off so I could weld this up and weld these hard to reach places in here, right? So the whole bottom section was welded. It moved a lot. The merge collector moved quite a bit. When I went to put these 2 tubes back on, this had twisted and made it. I tried to bend it around and tweak it around and moose it around, and I just kept messing with it, and I could never get it to line up and get a nice tight fit around the merge collector. So I ended up cutting it apart, making 2 new merge collector tubes, got it all happy again, tacked it all back together. Then before I took it apart, so part of the issue too is I needed to weld the backside of the merge collector. So I did a good amount of welding in there on the inside and the outside, pulled these 2 tubes off, welded the backside got as tidy as I could, was able to get it back on. It did move a little bit. This didn't want to line up exactly. It was like maybe an 1/8 inch off. So I was able to, when I got this all retacked together and everything, and this tube over here was good, I was able to just pry this over a little bit and clamp it and get it into place. So yeah, so I'm happy. So next I'm going to probably cut this back a little bit. I'm going to straighten these out, try to get this more squared up for the transition from basically a square to a rectangle where it kind of comes up. And then I'm going to get in here and fully weld all this, get it all cleaned up, and then I'll unbolt it from the jig here, and I'll weld the backside of the tubes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. It's going to get a little long. I still need to place the turbos, figure out where the T4 flange is going to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get these all dialed in, weld it up, get them bolted up. Then I'm going to hold the turbo up and do the transition and stuff. And I'm going to do that in the next video. So if you like the video, subscribe and leave a comment. And I'll see you on the next one.